I used to think there was nothing safer than falling asleep in the car while my dad was driving. The world could be doing whatever it wanted outside the windows. Rain, thunder, crazy drivers, and as long as I was in the passenger seat with my seatbelt on and his hands on the wheel, I was fine. That was just a fact, like gravity or math homework. The last time I believed that was the Christmas we got stranded in the snow. I was 11 that year, old enough to know Santa wasn't real, but still young enough to get excited about the drive to my grandparents' house. They lived 6 hours away, in a little town that looked like it was built out of Christmas cards. Actual candles in the windows, real pine wreaths on the doors, giant plastic nativity in the front yard year-round. We normally went up the day before Christmas Eve, stayed in a motel halfway, and arrived fresh the next morning. That year, Dad said we were going to save the motel money. "It's just one long night drive," he told Mom. "We'll leave late. He'll sleep in the car, and we'll be there before breakfast." Easy. Mom made a face, but she was working a double shift at the hospital and couldn't come with us until later. She kissed Dad, kissed me, shoved a bag of snacks into my arms, and said, "Text me when you stop. Call me when you get there. And don't let him drink 3 energy drinks in a row." Dad grinned. No promises. We left around 9 that night. The air was already cold enough to bite when we stepped outside. Our breath came out in little clouds. Dad loaded our overnight bag into the trunk, made some kind of dad noise at the engine as he started it, and cranked the heater. "All right, co-pilot," he said, ruffling my hair. "You ready for a Christmas adventure?" "Yeah," I said, trying not to act too excited. 11 is that age where you still want to be a kid, but also don't want to look like one. Once we hit the highway, he turned on the radio, static commercials, and then, of course, Christmas music. "Aw, man," he said, over the top dramatic. "How are we gonna survive 3 more days of this?" "You're the one who turned it on," I pointed out. "Details, details." We drove through the familiar streets of our town, past houses with blinking lights and inflatable Santas collapsing slowly onto front lawns. The further we got from town, the darker it got. The radio towers disappeared from the horizon. Street lights turned into nothing. It was just us, the yellow lines, and the car. Usually that would have made me nervous, but with Dad, it felt like being inside a moving little world that belonged only to us. He kept one hand on the steering wheel, one hand wrapped around a travel mug of coffee, humming along to songs he pretended to hate. "Remember last year when Grandpa burned the turkey?" he said at one point. "He didn't burn it. He set it on fire." I corrected. "True, true. And who saved the day with the emergency pizza run?" "You did," I said. "Exactly. Are you sensing a theme here? Christmas chaos happens. Dad handles it." He said it jokingly, but I'd believed it way before he ever said it out loud. He was the kind of dad who fixed things. Leaky sinks, flat tires, broken toys, bad moods. If something went wrong, the default answer in my head was, "Dad will figure it out." The snow started as just a few stray flakes in the beam of the headlights. I watched them drift and swirl like tiny white bugs. Dad noticed them too. "Huh," he said. "Guess the forecast wasn't kidding." "Is that bad?" I asked. "Nah," he said. "A little snow just makes it pretty. You ever driven through a snow globe?" He turned the music down a little and kept going. For a while, it was nice. The road was still clear. The flakes melted as soon as they hit the ground. The sky was a big black dome overhead. No moon, no stars. Just our lights carving a tunnel through the dark. Eventually, I had to pee. "Dad," I said, squirming in my seat. "Can we stop?" He made a thoughtful noise. We just passed the last rest stop a few miles back. You sure you can't hold it? I shook my head. He sighed theatrically. All right, emergency pit stop it is. Good thing this road has about 12,000 trees. He pulled onto a seed area where the plow trucks sometimes parked. The crunch of the tires on the shoulder made me feel like we were driving onto another planet. Up close, the forest looked like a wall of skinny, bare trees, black branches scribbled against the night. Stay close to the car, he said, grabbing his flashlight from the glove box. Don't go wandering off pretending you're in Narnia. I'm not 6, I reminded him, but I stayed close anyway. The air outside was colder than before, the kind of cold that immediately crawls under your clothes and sinks teeth into your bones. Snowflakes hit my cheeks and eyelids, soft and wet, but there were more of them now, falling faster. We did our business behind separate trees, both making the usual dumb pee-in-the-snow jokes that all guys seem legally required to make. On the way back, he scooped some snow and tossed it at me. Hey, I yelped as it hit my jacket. He grinned. Gotta keep you on your toes, kiddo. I bent down, grabbed a handful of my own Sid, and threw it back. For a minute. We were just a dad and his kid having a tiny snowball fight on the side of an empty highway. His breath puffed out in big clouds as he laughed. My fingers stung. My cheeks burned. My heart felt full. We climbed back into the car, stomping snow off our shoes, and cranked the heater again. By the time we merged back onto the highway, the snow had gone from pretty to annoying. Wipers thunked back and forth in a steady rhythm. The sound of them scraping against the growing layer of slush on the windshield was hypnotic. The flakes didn't melt on the road anymore. They layered, turning the black asphalt into a gray smear. Dad leaned forward a little, squinting. Okay, he said under his breath. That's more than I thought. Is it bad? I asked. He glanced at me and forced a half smile. It's fine. I've driven in worse. We'll take it slow. He turned the music down more and flicked the radio to a weather station. The voice coming through was staticky, but clear enough. Blizzard warning in effect for crackle, sudden whiteout conditions and heavy accumulation. Crackle, travel strongly discouraged. Dad snorted. Well, that would have been useful an hour ago. He let the radio play a few more minutes, then clicked it off. I don't like this, I said quietly, watching the void ahead fill with white. That makes 2 of us, he said. But panicking doesn't help. Here's what we're gonna do. We keep going as long as I can still see the road. If it gets too bad, we pull over and wait it out. We've got food, blankets, a full tank. We're okay. The wipers kept beating. The snow kept coming. The world outside the windshield shrank. Street lights were rare out here. Now they might as well not have existed at all. The only thing I could see was the cone of our headlights, filled with swirling snow. Past that, nothing. It was like driving through the inside of a cloud. Dad slowed from 60 to 40, then 30, then less. I noticed he was leaning closer and closer to the wheel, shoulders tight. Can you see? I asked. Enough, he said. But we're getting close to the mountains. If this keeps up, the plows won't keep up with it. He was right. The road started to slope gently upward, and the drifts at the sides got higher. Once or twice, the car slid a little when he tapped the brakes, and my stomach lurched in time with it. Finally, he muttered something under his breath and pulled over, or tried to. The shoulder was a pile of snow. The car lurched, wheels spinning on slush, before finally grinding to a stop with its nose half buried in a drift. He put it in a park and sat back, exhaling slowly. Okay, he said, that's enough of that. He tried his phone. No bar. He frowned, lifted it higher, as if a few inches would change anything. Nothing. My phone? I asked. He took it, checked, handed it back. No service this far up. Not a big deal. We're not the only ones on this road. Somebody else will come along eventually. And if we don't show up, Grandma will go full nuclear and call everyone from the sheriff to the National Guard. He said it jokingly, but I could hear the tightness under it now. How long do we have to stay here? I asked. Until the plows get through, or the storm lets up enough that I can see again. Could be a couple hours, could be longer. The inside of the car suddenly felt smaller. He must have seen my face, because he reached over and squeezed my shoulder. "Hey," he said, "look at me." I did. "Rule number 1 of being stuck," he said. "You don't freak out before you have to. We're warm. We've got gas. We've got snacks. We've got the world's worst Christmas playlist. We're gonna be fine." "Okay," I said, because I didn't know what else to say. He turned the engine back on for a while, letting the heater blast. Then he turned it off, explaining about carbon monoxide and not running the car non-stop in deep snow. "Every hour or so, I'll go out and clear the snow away from the tailpipe," he said. "That way we don't get poisoned. You stay inside with the doors locked. No arguments." "No arguments," I echoed. We dug out the extra blankets and jackets from the back seat. I put on another hoodie, pulled my hat down low. He handed me a granola bar and opened a bag of pretzels for himself. After a while, my eyelids got heavy again. The car rocked gently in the wind. The heater's leftover warmth made a little bubble of comfort around us. Dad turned the radio to low, just enough to hear faint Christmas music under the roar of the storm outside. "Go ahead and sleep, bud," he said. "I'll keep watch." "You're not tired?" I asked. He grinned. "I'm a dad. We don't sleep. We just close our eyes to recharge sarcasm." I laughed, more because I wanted to than because it was funny. I curled up under the blanket, the seatbelt strap pressed against my chest, and let the drowsiness pull me down. I don't know how long I slept. At some point, the engine came back on for a while, then went off. At some point, I felt cold fingers tuck the blanket tighter around me. Voices from the radio fuzzed in and out of my dreams like ghosts. The next time I woke up, Dad wasn't in the driver's seat. For a second, panic shot through me, sharp and hot. Then I saw him, through the fogged windshield, a dark shape moving at the back of the car, sweeping something with his arms. He was clearing the tailpipe, like he'd said. The storm was worse now. The snow wasn't just falling. It was being thrown sideways by the wind. It crashed against the car in waves. I could feel each gust vibrate through the frame. I watched his silhouette move back and forth. He looked smaller out there, swallowed by the white. Then, under the howling of the wind and the hiss of snow on metal, I heard something else. It was faint, far away. For a second, I thought it was the radio, but the car was off. Everything inside was silent. "Dad?" I whispered, even though he couldn't hear me. The sound came again. It could have been the wind. Wind can sound like anything if you're scared enough. That's what I told myself, laying there with my breath fogging the air in front of my face. But it didn't sound like random noise. It sounded like syllables, like words, stretched, warped, ripped apart by distance. "Hell, Eve!" A shiver ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the cold. I sat up straighter, pressing my face closer to the glass. The world outside was just a wall of white. Dad's shape was barely there now, a shadow moving through milk. There it was again, closer this time. "Please." I swallowed hard, my heart hammered against my ribs. "Dad," I whispered, my voice trembling. Dad, I think I hear someone. He didn't look up. The wind screamed over the roof, slamming into the car hard enough to make it rock. Somewhere in that noise, the voice came one more time. Help me. I told myself it was just the storm. That was the last time that night I believed it. The next time it came, it didn't sound far away. Help me. It was muffled by the wind, but the shape of the words was too clean, too clear, like someone playing a recording in another room. I held my breath and listened hard. For a few seconds there was only the roar of the storm and the tick of the cooling engine. Then, please, help me. This time it sounded closer, off to the right, somewhere beyond the passenger side, my side. Dad, I said louder. My voice cracked. There's somebody out there. He straightened up from the back of the car, his dark shape moving toward the driver's side door. By the time he slid in and slammed it, my heart was trying to crawl out of my throat. Okay, he said, breathing hard, knocking snow off his coat. Okay, talk to me. Champ, what did you hear? Someone yelling, help me, like they're hurt. He went still. For a long second, he just stared through the frosted windshield. As if on cue, the voice came again. Please, please, help. This time, we both heard it. We both jumped. It wasn't a scream exactly, more like the tail end of one. Dragged out, the syllables bumped into each other in the wrong places. Please, help him. Dad's jaw clenched. His eyes narrowed in that way they did when he was concentrating. That could be another car, he said. Someone in a ditch. Maybe they slid down the embankment. He reached for the keys, but not to start the engine. He turned them just enough to click the power on and rolled his window down a crack. The cold knifed in. The voice rode it. Stop it, please, it sobbed. Oh, God, no! It sounded closer again. Too close, like it was just beyond the wall of white. The hair on my arms stood up. There was something wrong with the way it said the words. I'd heard people cry before. Kids at school, Mom in the kitchen once when she thought I was asleep. They all had layers, breath, breaks, sounds that weren't words at all. This didn't. It was like someone had listened to a bunch of crying and then tried to copy it from memory. The pitch was right, but the rhythm was off. The pauses were in the wrong places. The "oh God" came out perfectly clear and then blurred into a too long, too flat "no." Please, help me. Dad's hand tightened on the window switch. He rolled it back up, sealing us in again. The car felt even smaller with the glass between us and the voice. We can't just sit here, he muttered. If there's someone out there, he trailed off. If there's someone out there, they should come to us, I said. My own voice surprised me. It sounded small but sharp. They'll see the car. We have lights. We had lights, he said. They're off. And if they're off the road... Another sound cut him off. It was the same voice, but this time it came from behind us. Then from in front, then from somewhere up and to the left, like it was being thrown around by the storm. Please, help me. Stop. No, please. The exact same phrases, shuffled, like hearing someone hit rewind and play on a crying track. Dad swallowed. Okay, he said. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to take the flashlight and go check. You stay here. You do not open this door unless you hear 3 knocks and me say your name. Got it? My whole body wanted to say no. Every part of my brain screamed that if he left the car, something bad would happen, something worse than a stranded stranger. You said not to freak out before we have to, I said instead. My voice shook. I think we have to now. He leaned over and put his hands on my shoulders. "Hey," he said softly. "This is what dads are for, remember? I'm not gonna leave some poor guy to freeze to death 50 feet from my bumper. I'll be right back." His eyes said he wanted to believe that as much as I did. He grabbed the big yellow flashlight from between the seats, zipped his coat up to his chin, and cracked his door open. A blast of snow-laden wind punched in, stealing my breath. "3 knocks," he repeated. "And my voice, nobody else's. You understand?" I nodded. I think I did. Anyway, my throat had closed up. He stepped out into the storm and was immediately half swallowed by it. The beam of his flashlight cut a thin, shaky line through the white. Then his door shut, and I was alone. The car was not made for silence. Even with everything off, you could still hear little ticks and pops as the engine cooled. The wind wrenched at the frame, making it groan. Snow thudded dully against the doors, and somewhere out there, that voice. "Help! Me!" I slid down in my seat until only my eyes were above the edge of the window. My breath fogged the glass. I wiped a small clear patch with my sleeve and squinted through it, trying to track Dad's flashlight. At first, it was easy. The beam bobbed along the side of the car, then angled out toward where the sound had seemed to come from. He was maybe 20, 30 feet away. That might as well have been miles. "Hello?" I faintly heard him shout. "Hey, call out if you can hear me." The storm laughed in his face. "Please, please," the other voice sobbed. "Stop! Please!" It sounded closer to him now, away from me. I tried to be glad about that and failed. "Talk to me," Dad yelled. "Where are you?" The voice cut off mid-plea. For a heartbeat, there was only wind. Then right outside my window, "Please!" I flinched so hard my neck hurt. The sound had moved instantly, like someone pressing a button. It didn't fade between spots. 1 second, it was out there with him. The next, it was right next to me. If there'd been someone standing there, I would have seen a shadow. A shape, or something. There was nothing but snow. It pressed up against the glass in thick sheets, blown sideways, impossible and heavy. Something about that made it worse, like the sound had no body attached to it at all. "Dad," I whispered, and even though he was too far to hear, "Come back, please come back." For a moment, the voice mimicked me. It wasn't exact. The pitch was off, a little too high, but the pattern of the words was the same. "Dad, come back, Dad!" I stopped breathing. The flashlight beam swung wildly out there, jerking back toward the car. I heard him shout my name, the real way, the full version he only used when he was serious. "Stay where you are," he bellowed. "Do you hear me? Stay in the car!" The thing out there tried again. It wasn't clever enough to get the cadence right. It said my name in 3 flat syllables, like it had never heard anyone say it before. The more it repeated it, the worse it got. Each attempt drifted farther from real speech, like a recording degrading. "Hell up me, oh God, no," it added, stacking phrases together like building blocks that didn't fit. There was a quality to it now that made my stomach twist. Anger, maybe, or hunger. Dad's flashlight suddenly jerked upward, beam slicing into the low clouds. Then he screamed. I'd never heard my dad scream before. It wasn't a long sound, more like a shout punched out of him. It still froze the blood in my veins. The flashlight spun, tumbling end over end. For a heartbeat, the beam landed on something above him. I can't tell you exactly what I saw. My brain won't put it into clear shapes when I try to remember. It was tall, wrong, upright, but not like a person. The snow around it clung to something that moved. There were angles where there shouldn't be, shadows where there was nothing to cast them. Then the light hit the ground and went out. "Dad!" I screamed. Finally, my hand flying to the door handle. 3 sharp knocks rattled the glass before I could pull it. I froze. "Open up!" Dad yelled, right on the other side. His voice was ragged, but it was his. "Now!" I unlocked the door and he practically fell inside, slamming it behind him so hard the whole car rocked. Snow exploded off his coat and hair. Something dark streaked his sleeve. For a second I thought it was blood, but it was just grease from the car. He reached across me with shaking hands and twisted the keys all the way back, killing the engine. The fan died. The little dash lights winked out. The car sank into a deeper darkness. "Dad, what?" "Lights off," he hissed. "All of them. No sound. Get down." There was a tiny dome light still glowing above us, that pathetic little orange bulb that comes on when the doors open. He smacked it with his palm until it went dark. Suddenly, it was just black, black and cold and breathing. "Lay down," he whispered. "On the seat. Keep the blanket over you. Whatever you hear, do not move. Do not talk." Something in his voice scared me worse than the thing outside. He was terrified. Dad didn't get terrified. He got mad. He got annoyed. He got, "We'll handle this." Right now, he was none of those things. We both slid down until we were just shapes under the blankets. He wrapped his arm over me and pulled me against his chest. I could feel his heart pounding against my back. Outside, something walked past the car. Walked isn't even the right word. Each contact with the ground was too heavy, too deliberate. The snow crunched, then squealed, like something sharp was being dragged. It circled us slowly, once, twice. Every so often, it spoke. "Please, help me." Right next to my door. Stop it, oh God, no." Near the hood. "Dad," in that broken version of my voice, at the trunk. The longer it went on, the more the words fell apart. Consonants got lost. Vowels stretched into static. It started stringing random pieces together, trying on combinations like outfits. "Help, Dad, stop. Cold, please." It didn't knock. It didn't try the handle. It just moved and spoke and listened. At least, that's what it felt like. My teeth chattered so hard I was sure it could hear them. Dad's hand slid over my mouth, gentle but firm. His fingers were ice cold. I don't know how long we lay like that. Time doesn't work right when you're that scared. It could have been 20 minutes or 3 hours. All I know is that, eventually, the footsteps got farther away. The voice got softer. The wind filled the space it left. At some point after that, I must have passed out, from cold, from fear, from both. I don't remember falling asleep. I remember the sound of Dad whispering something into my hair, maybe a prayer, maybe just my name. And then nothing. I woke up in a hospital bed. My hands were wrapped in warm blankets. My cheeks burned and my fingers stung like they were full of needles. Mom was crying quietly in the corner. Dad was in the bed next to mine, nose and cheeks red, lips cracked, but alive. They told us a plow truck had spotted the car half buried at the side of the road after the storm passed. They said we were lucky. Another few hours and we might have frozen. When I was finally allowed to get up, one of the rescue guys showed me a photo on his phone. "Want to see something weird?" he said, trying to make it sound casual. "We found these around your car." The picture showed tracks in the snow. Not boot prints, not tire marks. They made a wide circle around where the car had been. Each print was deep and long, with a drag mark between, like something had been pulled along. "They're not bear, exactly," the man said. "And they're not cat. Animal control said maybe it was just, wind patterns, snow slumping." He didn't sound like he believed it. I handed the phone back as carefully as if it were made of glass. I still fall asleep in cars sometimes. It's a hard habit to break. But I don't feel safe there anymore.
抖音
Because when the snow starts to fall heavy and the world outside the window turns white, I remember how the storm that night learned to scream like us. And I wonder how many other stranded cars it's going to practice on before it gets the words right. Driver's ed is supposed to keep you alive at Clearview High. Mine came with a body count. I'm not writing this because I hate my school or because I think car crashes are funny. I'm writing it because when the cops and the news and the official statement all say the same safe little word, accident, someone should at least know it wasn't. Somebody built what happened to us, tested it on us, and the only reason I'm here to tell you about it is because my driver's ed teacher brings a gun to class. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Clearview High's driver's ed program was supposed to be one of the best in the state. We had the posters with graphic crash photos, the videos about drunk driving, the whole we show you the scary stuff so you won't do it. Routine. We had the fancy simulator range with fake streets and fake buildings behind the school, and we had Mr. Busso. Everyone loved Busso. He was one of those weird old guys who somehow fits into a high school without it being creepy. Big round belly, coffee-stained mustache, shirts with little car patterns on them. He'd been teaching driver's ed since before most of our parents went there. He knew every horror story. I taught his mom. I taught her brother. I watched your uncle parallel park into a fire hydrant. He'd say it with this little wheeze laugh that made the whole class crack up. And he had this thing with letters, every multiple choice quiz. He'd read the answers out loud, and he never just said A, B, C, D. He had to turn it into a bit. A, he'd say, tapping the projector screen with his pen, is for adorable, like Busso. B is for brave, like Busso. C is for cool, like Busso. D is for don't crash or Busso will cry. It was stupid, it was lame, and it was his thing. The first day of class, I rolled my eyes. By the second week, I caught myself smiling when he did it. It made the whole don't die in a ditch before you graduate thing feel less heavy. If you'd asked me 2 weeks ago who the least threatening adult in Clearview was, I would have said, Mr. Busso. Now I know better. The day everything started to go wrong was a Tuesday. We were a week away from our first big range day on the practice course, so Busso was drilling us on signs and right-of-way with one of his PowerPoint quizzes. Half of us were half asleep. The lights were dimmed outside the classroom windows. The simulator range sat under an overcast sky like some weird little ghost town. Fake gas station, fake office building, fake four-way stops. You guys are not going out there to impress each other, he said, shuffling papers at his desk. You are going out there to impress me, and the only thing that impresses me is staying alive long enough to tell boring stories about it later. A couple kids laughed. I doodled little stop signs in the margin of my notes. He clicked to the first question. Okay, question 1. The slide showed a four-way intersection. You arrive at the same time as 2 other cars. Who has the right of way? He read the answers like usual. A for adorable little right of way rules, he said. B for Busso doesn't care what you think, just follow the law. C for come on, really? And D for we'll find out if you get it wrong. More laughter. He took us through a few more questions. Red lights merging, school zones, same patter, same dumb jokes. Then he froze. It wasn't dramatic, no lightning, no music sting. He just kind of stopped talking mid-sentence. His eyes went unfocused for half a second. His hand tightened around the little remote he used to change slides. Question 7, he said, in a voice that was suddenly wrong. It was deeper, flatter, not the wheezy, friendly tone we were used to. It sounded like him, but compressed, like someone doing an impression and not quite getting the warmth right. The slide was about highway speeds. I was only half paying attention until he said, A, he read slowly, is for accident. The word sat in the room like a dropped weight. Someone snorted nervously. A couple of the kids glanced at each other. Was he changing the bit? B, he continued, is for blood. I heard the kid behind me whisper, What the hell? Under his breath. C, Busso said, eyes still a little too blank, is for catastrophe. The air felt wrong. The posters on the walls suddenly looked less like cheesy warnings and more like predictions. He lifted his head, stared over our rows of desks like he wasn't really seeing us. Don't get in the cars, he said. No joke, no like Busso. Just 4 words, pushed out like they weighed a ton. My skin crawled. You know that feeling when the room is technically the same, but your animal brain decides there's a predator in it? That. He blinked. Then, just like that, the switch flipped back. And D, he wheezed, same old Busso tone, is for don't drive like an idiot. Mark your answers, children. This isn't rocket science. The class buzzed. Somebody in the back said, Yo, what was that? Someone else laughed too loudly. Mr. B? A girl in the front row raised her hand. Did you just, go creepy on purpose? Creepy? He said, frowning. When have I ever been creepy? I am adorable, remember? You said blood and catastrophe, dude, one of the football guys said. Busso's eyebrows pinched together. I did? You sure you're not just writing your emo lyrics again, Tyler? People chuckled, nerves leaking out as bad jokes. I'm serious, the girl said. You told us not to get in the cars. He looked genuinely confused. He glanced down at his answer key. Huh, he said. Must have been thinking about those crash videos I'm legally obligated to show you. Brain's getting old. Either that or you're all messing with me. We tried to laugh it off. We really did. But as he moved to the next question, I noticed something I hadn't before. A small, glossy sticker on the side of the new speaker mounted in the corner of the room. Halitech Industries. Tiny logo. Little lightning bolt through a circle. The same logo was in the bottom right corner of the crash prevention poster by the door. Clearview High Driver Safety, sponsored by Halitech. We'd all started seeing that logo around the school lately. New projectors, new security cameras, little metal plate on the side of the intercom in the hall that said Halitech Communications. I'd never thought about it. Corporate sponsor, tech company, whatever. Now, with Busso's voice still echoing in my head, A is for accident, B is for blood. Don't get in the cars. It didn't feel so harmless. Class ended. Papers shuffled. Chairs scraped back. The spell, the weirdness, broke under the noise. All right, my future licensed menaces, Busso said in his normal voice, clapping his hands. Next week, we take all this delicious knowledge and see if you can use it without killing a traffic cone. We are going out on the range. The range. Everyone perked up at that. The simulator course was the only interesting thing about driver's ed. It sat behind the gym, a miniature fake town built out of painted asphalt and cheap props. 1-lane roads, intersections with real signs, a lifeless gas station, a pretend office building, even cardboard shops with names like Clearview Cafe. In the center was a tall metal observation tower with a glass room on top. That's where whoever was running the session sat with the radios and the clipboard, watching us crawl around in the little white cars with giant student driver signs on top. It's not a toy, Busso said like he always did. You treat the range like a real town, because the habits you build out there will follow you onto real roads. Understand me? Yes, sir, we mumbled. He smiled. And remember, he paused like he was waiting for something. For a second, his eyes flicked up to the speaker in the corner. A, he said finally with forced cheer, is for awareness, like Busso. Keep it on at all times. The bell rang. We spilled out into the hallway, already forgetting the weirdness, already talking about who would get to drive first on range day, who would crash into what. I looked back once. Busso was standing alone at the front of the classroom, staring at the Hail Tech poster by the door. His shoulders were slumped in a way I hadn't seen before. Then, as if he could feel my eyes on him, he straightened up, flashed me a thumbs up, and mouthed, "You'll do fine." I wish I'd believed him. If we'd listened to the version of him that told us not to get in the cars, none of this would have happened. Range day was the following Monday. The sky over Clearview was that washed-out gray that makes everything look like it's under a filter. The fake town behind the school looked even faker in that light. Flat storefronts with painted windows, the little Clearview Bank sign, the cardboard gas station. The only things that looked real were the cars. There were 6 of them. Identical white sedans with student driver bolted to the roof and numbers on the sides. I was assigned to car 5 with a kid named Marcus, who was more excited about how many funny TikToks he could film than about not dying. "Dude, if I hit something, you better record it," he said. "I'll be, like, internet famous." "I'm not recording your manslaughter," I said. "Find another cameraman." The observation tower stood in the middle of the range like a control tower at a tiny airport. Glass room up top, metal stairs spiraling down. That's where Busso went with his clipboard and his thermos and, apparently, a brand new Hail Tech headset. He held it up as we clustered by the fence. "New toys, kids," he said. "District partnered with Hail Tech, so we get the latest in communication tech. Means I can talk to you in your cars without screaming my lungs out. Don't make me regret it." The headset was black and sleek, with a little logo on the side. Haletade Communications. He slipped it on, the microphone curving along his cheek. I felt that crawl again at the back of my neck. I looked up at the speakers mounted around the range, also brand new, also stamped with Hail Tech logos. "A is for audio assistance," Busso said, trying to make a joke of it. "C is for clear communication. B is for Busso in your ear." The class laughed. I didn't. He pointed at the cars. "Get in, seatbelts, adjust your mirrors. You know the drill. One driver, one observer. We'll rotate." Marcus called dibs on driving first. I didn't argue. We slid into car 5. The interior smelled like vinyl and hand sanitizer. There was a small speaker in the dash with a tiny Hail Tech plate screwed in under it. "We're gonna be fine," Marcus said, grabbing the wheel. "I play racing games." "That's not comforting," I said, buckling my seatbelt anyway. The engines turned over one by one. The cars hummed, ready, out of the windshield. I could see car 1 already rolling toward the fake 4-way stop. Painted stop line, bright white against black asphalt. "Okay, kiddos." Busso's voice crackled through the dash speaker. "Car 1, approach the stop. Full stop. Look both ways. Proceed when safe. Car 2, follow. Car 3, stay back until you're waved on." His voice sounded normal, just a little tinny. The range came alive. Engines revving low, tires crunching over painted lines, nervous laughter muffled by closed doors. Marcus pulled us out of our starting spot when Busso called for Carsar to join the flow. I watched the fake town roll by, buildings staring back with blank windows. For a few minutes, it actually felt like a normal driver's ed exercise. Car 1 stopped, car 2 stopped, car 3 hesitated too long and got chirped at. Don't be shy, Car 3, Busso said. You're not asking them out. You're just crossing an intersection. People giggled over the radios. Marcus laughed too, shoulders loosening. A for awesome, Car 1, nicely done. Car 4 when you reach the sign. There was a faint click, a tiny little hiss of static, and then a different voice slid into the car. Car 2, a woman said. You don't have to stop completely. You're confident. Just roll through. Marcus and I looked at each other. That's new, he said. Maybe Hailtech sent a rep, I thought. Maybe they added some kind of AI coaching voice to the system. That would have been the normal explanation. But the normal explanation didn't fit how that voice sounded. It was smooth, precise, no background noise, no breath. And there was something under it, like a second tone just below human hearing, that made my teeth feel weird. Car 2, she repeated, a hint of amusement in her words. I said, don't stop. Prove you're not afraid. Through the windshield, I watched Car 2 roll toward the stop sign. It didn't slow down. Car 2, stop, Busso's voice snapped back in, sharp enough to cut. Brake now. Full stop. That's not funny. The car jerked at the last second, tires squealing, stopping halfway over the line. The kid behind the wheel threw his hands up, like, I don't know what happened. The woman laughed quietly in our speaker. It wasn't a normal laugh. Too even, too controlled. Good, she said. Now we know you can override them. The hair on my arms stood up. Probably some pre-recorded thing, Marcus muttered. Like GPS. Chill. Cars 3 and 4, Busso said, and I could hear strain in his voice now. Ignore any extra chatter. Follow my directions only. Understood? Yes, sir, someone said. Car 3, the woman purred, overlapping him. You're being too timid. Speed up. You're holding everyone back. Car 3's brake lights flickered, then went out. The car's nose dipped, then lifted as it gained speed. Car 3, slow down, Busso barked. This is not a game, you... The rest of his sentence vanished under the screech of tires. Car 3 blew right through its stop sign and clipped the back of Car 1. Metal slammed against metal with a crunch that made my stomach flip. Car 1 spun, its student driver sign tilting at a sick angle. Oh my God, Marcus whispered. Car 2, brake, Busso shouted. All units, full stop. Car 4, the woman said calmly. Turn left, now. Car 4 yanked its wheel left, into the intersection, into the mess. It hit the side of Car 2. Glass popped. The hood crumpled. One of the cars lurched up onto the curb, grazing one of the plastic pedestrian cutouts hard enough to send it flying. Somewhere under the chaos, there was a dull, heavy thud that didn't sound like plastic or metal. For a moment, everything on the range was motion and noise, horns, shouts, the grind of engines struggling against sudden resistance. Then, like someone pressed a button, the cars went still. Everyone, hands off the wheels! Busso's voice came through, thin with panic. Foot off the pedals, now! Nobody moved. In Car 3, I could see the driver's arms rigid, white-knuckled on the wheel. His eyes were wide, staring straight ahead, unblinking. Car 5, the woman said, and my stomach turned over because this time, when she spoke, it felt like she was leaning right over my shoulder. You're very calm. Good job. You're going to help us with something special. Marcus laughed nervously. Okay, that's creepy. I tried to answer him. My tongue felt thick. The edges of my vision fuzzed. Car 5, Busso snapped. Do not move your vehicle, sir. Do you hear me? Stay where you are. His voice sounded far away, like it was coming from another room. Hers was right here, curling around my eardrums. "Turn right at the next intersection," she said. "Park in front of the office building. You see it, don't you?" I did, out of the windshield. Through the chaos of twisted cars and scattered cones, I could see the fake office building at the edge of the range. 2 stories tall, beige paint already peeling, a sign that said Clearview Offices in letters that were never straight. My hands slid on the wheel. I didn't want them to. I swear to you, I didn't. But some tight, invisible weight settled behind my eyes, and my fingers closed over the steering wheel like they were following someone else's orders. "Dude," Marcus said. His voice sounded distant. "What are you doing? We're supposed to—" "Shut up," I heard myself say. It didn't sound like me. Or maybe it did, stripped of hesitation. My foot pressed the gas. "Car 5, brake," Busso roared in my ear. "Stop the car, that is an order." The woman sighed, soft and almost affectionate. "Shh," she said. "We're almost ready." The car rolled forward, around a stalled, smoking car 1, past a kid stumbling out of car 2 with blood on his forehead. Marcus clawed at his seatbelt, eyes wild. "Hit the brakes, man," he gasped. "Hit the—" I took my foot off the gas, wanting so badly to stomp the brake pedal my muscles shook with it. My leg didn't listen. We coasted to the curb in front of the fake office. My hands spun the wheel neatly. The car slid into a perfect parallel park. Some detached part of me noted that if this were a test, I would have gotten an A. "Excellent," the woman said. "Now, put the car in park. Turn off the engine." My fingers moved. Gear shift, key, silence. "Get out," she said. Marcus shook his head. "I'm not going anywhere," he muttered. She didn't seem to hear him, or she didn't care. "Driver," she said, and the way she stressed the word made my skin crawl. "Exit the vehicle. Walk into the building. We're going to gather some new data." My door unlatched. The cold air slapped my face. Somewhere, someone was screaming. Someone was crying. Metal ticked as hoods cooled. I stepped out onto the asphalt. "Stay in the car," Busso yelled, his voice cracking. "Car 5, stay in." The speaker in the dash cut him off mid-sentence. The little Hail-Tech plate below it gleamed. "Ignore external interference," the woman said. "We've already tested impact collisions. We need to evaluate a different scenario." My feet carried me up the fake concrete steps to the fake glass doors. They were real enough when my hand wrapped around the handle. Inside, the office building was just a couple of cheaply framed rooms. I'd been in it once during freshman orientation, back when they gave tours of the range and bragged about our cutting-edge driver safety environment. It smelled like dust and cleaning chemicals. Today, it smelled like dust and ozone, like before a lightning strike. "First door on your right," the woman said. "There's a desk. On the desk is a firearm. Pick it up." My chest hurt. Tears blurred my vision. "I don't want to," I whispered, or thought I did. My lips barely moved. "Participation is mandatory," she replied. "Driver's ed is about safety. We need to understand all kinds of accidents." The door on the right was marked Manager. I pushed it open. The room was dim, lit only by a strip of light from a high window. There was a desk. On the desk was a black pistol. It might have been a training prop. It might have been real. In that moment, it didn't matter. My fingers curled around it, slick with sweat. "Good," she said. "Now, place it under your—" "No." The word detonated in my skull like a firecracker. It didn't come from me. It came from the doorway behind me. There was a loud, deafening bang, not from my hand. The window exploded inward. The woman on the radio screamed, not in my ears, but in the room itself. from somewhere in the shadows. My knees buckled. The gun slipped from my fingers and clattered to the floor. For a second, my body was mine again. I turned. In the far corner of the office, half hidden behind a stack of cardboard boxes, a woman slumped against a chair. She wore a black Hailtech polo and a headset with a little mic, just like Busso's, just sleeker. A laptop sat open next to her, a tangle of wires snaking from it into a metal box on the floor. Her chest was wet, red. Her eyes were wide, shocked, staring at nothing. Mr. Busso stood in the doorway, both hands on a very real handgun, arms extended, like he'd done this before. His mustache twitched. His eyes were wild in a way I'd never seen. A, he panted, is for always armed, like Busso. He stepped into the room, keeping the gun trained on the woman, even though she wasn't moving. "Pick that up carefully," he said to me without looking. "Finger off the trigger. Put it on the desk." My hands shook, but for the first time since we started driving, they did what I wanted. I picked up the pistol by the grip, set it down, stepped back. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Someone must have called 911. I could hear faint cries, the squawk of other radios, chaos bleeding through the walls. Busso nudged the dead woman's shoulder with his shoe, then bent down and pulled a badge from her belt. Hailtech Industries. Underneath, Driver Safety Division. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered. "What was she doing?" My voice sounded small. What was that? Why couldn't I stop? He looked at me, and for a second, all the jokes and the goofy A for adorable persona were gone. In their place was someone who had seen this kind of thing before, someone who'd been waiting for it. "They call it compliance testing," he said. "Behavioral override. They sell it as advanced driver assistance, helps you make better choices." He spat the words like they tasted bad. "This wasn't an accident," I said. My mouth felt dry. "The pile-up out there." "No," he said. "It wasn't." The sirens got closer. Tires on gravel, doors slamming, shouts. He grabbed my shoulders, forced me to meet his eyes. "Listen to me," he said. "When the police come in here, you do not mention her voice. You do not mention being told to pick up a gun. You say there was a malfunction. You panicked, and I found you before you hurt yourself. Understood?" "That's lying," I said weakly. "It's survival," he said. "Do you think Hailtech is going to let mind control experiment on teenagers hit the evening news? They'll call it a glitch. They'll show up with lawyers and PowerPoints." He shoved the badge into his pocket. "And then," he added, "they'll try again somewhere else." He holstered his gun. Yes, he had an actual holster under his ridiculous car-print shirt, and gave me one last look. "Driver's ed is supposed to keep you safe," he said. "But you remember this, kid. If there's a corporation's name on your safety, they're counting bodies as data points." The door burst open. Administrators, cops, EMTs flooded the hallway. Voices overlapped. Hands pulled me aside, guided me out, sat me on the back of an ambulance. They wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, even though I wasn't cold. On the news that night, they called it a tragedy during a routine driver training exercise. Faulty equipment, possible software bug in the innovative Hailtech range control system. The number of injured changed twice. The word deceased never appeared. They interviewed a Hailtech spokesperson who said, with very polished sadness, "Safety is our top priority," while their logo glowed in the corner. Hailtech drives the future. They didn't mention the woman in the polo shirt. They didn't mention her badge. They didn't mention the way my hands moved without me. In the official report, What happened in that office was described as a near self-harm incident promptly de-escalated by the
Really?
instructor. No one asked why a high school driver's ed teacher brings a gun to work. No one asked how he knew to use it. Transferred out of Clearview High after that, but Hail Tech followed me. Their logo shows up on billboards, on cars with driver assist, on little devices people plug into their dashboards. Every time I see it, I hear a female voice say, "Turn right, don't brake, pick it up." Driver's ed is supposed to keep you safe. At Clearview, it was just the beta test. I've had a lot of crappy jobs, but only one that came with written rules like, do not open your eyes inside the house. Do not take anything, even if it's yours. Tips are your problem. Surviving is mine. And the worst part? Those were printed on little red stickers and slapped on pizza boxes like they were just another topping. My name's Dinosaur. It's not my legal name. My mom is weird, but not that weird. It started as a joke in middle school because I was tall, clumsy, and wore a green hoodie every day. I never shook it. At some point, people stopped asking what my real name was, and I stopped correcting them. I'm 22, I live in Dayton, Ohio, and up until a few months ago, I was very good at one thing: getting fired. Retail, coffee shops, call centers. My longest streak was 3 months at a shoe store before I told a soccer dad if he yelled at me about arch support one more time, I'd wedge a cleat somewhere the sun doesn't shine. Turns out, managers don't love that. So yeah, I was broke. Behind on rent, eating ramen garnished with whatever's left in the fridge that isn't fuzzy. The usual. That's when I saw the sign in the window of Mancini's Pizza. Driver wanted. Start tonight. Cash tips. Mancini's is one of those old-school, family-run places, wedged between a laundromat and a vape shop. Neon sign in the window. Red, checkered tablecloths. Pictures of Italy on the walls, even though I'm 90% sure the owner's never been further than Cincinnati. I walked in with my "hire me, I'm desperate" smile ready. Behind the counter was this stocky guy in his 50s with slicked-back gray hair and a mustache that could have its own zip code. He was sprinkling cheese on a pizza like it owed him money. Hi," I said. I saw the sign for a driver. He looked up, eyes scanning me from scuffed boots to faded jacket. "You got a car?" he asked. Accent, definitely Italian, or at least imported from New York. "Yeah." "You got a license?" "Yeah." "You got a phone that works?" "I mean, it doesn't call my mom back, but yes." One corner of his mustache twitched. "You ever deliver pizzas before, He waved his hand, fishing for my name. "Dinosaur," I said automatically, then winced. "Dino. People call me Dino." "Dino," he repeated like he was tasting it. "Okay, Dino, come back here." That was it. No job application, no background check, no "tell me about a time you overcame a challenge." Just car, license, phone, semi-human. "You're in." I followed him into the tiny office behind the ovens. It smelled like garlic, flour, and stress. On the wall, above a battered desk, was a corkboard. Tacked to it were a faded "no checks" sign, a picture of a woman and 2 kids, his family, I guessed, a handful of bright red index cards, each with a few lines of text written in blocky black marker. My eyes went straight to those. Mr. Mancini. He never actually told me his first name, so he's Mr. M in my head. Noticed. "Those," he said, stabbing a sausagey finger at the cards, "are the red flags." "That doesn't sound ominous at all," I said. He gave me a look that said girls who make jokes don't last long here. "Most deliveries, they normal," he said. "Address, name, extra cheese, boom. You take, you go, you come back. But sometimes, he tapped the red cards again. Sometimes they call from special houses. Those have rules. You follow the rules, you get good money. You don't follow the rules. He shrugged, the kind of shrug that covers a lot of ugly possibilities. How good are we talking? I asked, because of course that's where my brain went. He grimaced like I'd just asked how much he weighed. 50, 100 in cash, he muttered. On top of the delivery fee, sometimes more. My rent balance flashed in my mind like a neon sign. So what, they're like rich weirdos with kinks about instructions? I said. As long as nobody makes me dress up like a slice of pepperoni. Dino. His voice sharpened. This is not a joke job. You don't follow their rules. You don't keep working here, understand? I stopped smiling. Yeah, I said. I get it. He watched me for another second, like he was weighing whether I really did. You will see them when they come in, he said. We write the rule on a red label and put it on the box. You read it, you follow it exactly. You don't argue with the customer. You don't improvise. You come straight back. Got it, I said. Red label, obey, don't die. He actually snorted at that. You're funny, he said. Funny is okay. Stupid is not. One more thing. He leaned back against the desk, mustache dipping, suddenly serious. You are not the first girl to take this job with me, he said. The last one. She was nice. She make all the old ladies smile, but she thought the rules were suggestions. He sighed. She does not work here anymore. Because? I prompted. He shrugged again, but his eyes slid away. One day, she don't come back from a delivery. Maybe she quit. Maybe she found something better. Maybe she didn't follow the red flag. I don't know. I don't ask too many questions about these houses. I just send the pizza and pray it comes back with my driver still breathing. The room suddenly felt about 10 degrees colder. I swallowed. You're still sending people there, though, I said slowly. He met my eyes, steady, tired. You want the job or not? I thought about my empty fridge, my overdue electric bill, the fact that my last meal had been toast with butter scrapings. Yeah, I said. I want the job. He nodded like he'd known I would. Okay, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights are busy. You work tonight till close. We see how you do. Take the blue Corolla out back. Don't wreck it. And Dino? Yeah? He tapped one of the red cards again. First time you see one of these, you make a choice. You can say no. You can say you only take normal orders. I won't be mad. I won't fire you. But if you say yes, his mustache twitched, then you do not play around. I nodded, even though in my head I was already picturing a crisp 100 folded under a pizza box. The first couple of hours were boring in the way that feels good when you haven't had stability in a while. Medium pepperoni to a tired mom with 3 screaming kids. Large meat lovers to a group of college guys who tipped in crumpled singles. An old man who insisted on telling me about his cat for 5 minutes while I stood in the snow holding his pizza. No red labels. Every time a new order came up, I'd glance at the boxes. White labels. Normal. No label. Normal. Boring. Safe. Broke. Then, around 9:30 p.m., Frankie, the other driver, came back from a run, stomping snow off his boots. He's in his 40s, buzz cut, face like a backpack that's been left in the sun. Got one for you, Dino, he said, dropping a folded piece of paper on the counter. The kitchen smelled like melted cheese and oregano. The ovens hummed. I wiped my hands on my sweatshirt and picked up the slip. 1 large cheese, no toppings, cash on delivery. Address, a street I didn't recognize on the outskirts of town. And at the bottom, in Mr. M's blocky marker, red flag, label on box. My stomach did a little flip. By the time I turned around, there it was on the prep counter. a plain brown pizza box with a bright red sticker on top. In all caps, it said, "When you get out of the car, close your eyes. Do not open them for any reason. The door will be unlocked. Walk straight until you feel the table. Put the pizza down. Take the envelope. Leave. Keep your eyes closed until you are back in the car." Someone had drawn a little smiley face under it. It did not help. "First one's always the weirdest," Frankie said, tying a plastic bag of knots on the counter. "After that, you either get used to it or you never take them again." "You've done this?" I asked. He made a non-committal noise. "A few times. Different houses, different rules. Same vibe." "Which is?" He looked at me for a second, like he was deciding how honest to be. "Like walking your paycheck through a haunted house," he said finally. "Most of what's scary is in your head. Most. Super comforting." Mr. M appeared as if summoned by my rising anxiety. He slapped a couple of little plastic containers of garlic sauce into the box and snapped it shut. "You take this one," he asked me. I thought of the other driver who didn't work here anymore. "I thought of rent." "Yeah," I said. "I'll take it." He nodded, not pleased, not displeased, just resigned. "Remember the rule," he said. "No matter what, you do not open your eyes." "Even if I trip and break my nose and sue you," I said, because my default defense mechanism is sarcasm. "Even then," he said, "you come back with 2 broken legs, I pay the hospital. You open your eyes when they told you not to. I cannot help you." That killed the joke pretty fast. The address was out past where the streetlights start getting lazy. My phone's GPS kept losing signal and rerouting. By the time I found the street, my hands were clammy on the steering wheel. The house itself was the kind of place you cross the street to avoid on Halloween. Old, 2 stories, paint peeling, porch sagging, no car in the driveway, no lights on, except a single yellow glow in what I guessed was the front room. I parked at the curb and sat there with the engine idling, staring at the front door. The red sticker on the box glared up at me from the passenger seat. "Keep your eyes closed. Walk straight. Table. Pizza. Envelope. Leave." "How bad do you want that 100, Dino?" I muttered to myself. Pretty bad, apparently. I killed the engine, grabbed the box, and took a deep breath. "Okay," I said, like I was about to dunk my head underwater. "Here we go." I opened the door, stepped out into the cold, and closed my eyes. Instant regret. It's amazing how much scarier the world gets when you can't see it. Every sound is something. Every patch of air feels like a hand reaching for you. The snow crunched under my boots. I could hear the wind in the bare branches overhead, the distant whoosh of a car on some other road, my heartbeat in my ears. I held the pizza box in front of me like a shield and shuffled forward until my toes found the edge of the curb. One step up, another. Gravel, then what felt like a broken walkway. I look so stupid right now, I thought, a hysterical giggle bubbling in my chest. If anyone's watching, they're getting a real show. The smell hit me halfway up the path. Not rot, not anything dramatic, just old house. Dust, stale air, maybe a hint of mildew. The kind of place that's been closed up too long. My outstretched hand met wood and peeling paint. The front door, the rule said it would be unlocked. My fingers closed around the knob. It turned easily. "Hello?" I called, because I'm not a complete animal. Pizza?" Silence. Then, from somewhere ahead of me, a child's voice said, "In here." It sounded like a little boy, 8, maybe 9, high, slightly squeaky, with that excited edge kids get when food is involved. "Okay," I said, more to myself than him. "Table, pizza, envelope, Leave. I stepped inside. The floor changed to something smoother, hardwood maybe. The air was warmer. The door clicked shut behind me, making my shoulders tense. I kept my eyes squeezed shut so tight I saw little sparks. Straight ahead, the kid's voice chirped. "You're doing great. I feel like I should be winning a prize on a game show," I muttered. He giggled. The sound echoed weirdly, like the walls were too far apart or too close together. I couldn't tell which. "You're funny," he said. "They didn't say you were funny." "Who's they?" I asked before I could stop myself. He didn't answer that. "Just a little more," he said instead. "Watch your step." The floor dipped, then rose like I was stepping over something. My free hand brushed air, then what felt like the edge of a doorway. "You're almost there," he sing-songed. "Just a few more. Don't open your eyes, okay?" "Wasn't planning on it," I said. "Kind of the whole thing here." He giggled again. Something about the sound made my skin crawl. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was just spooked. But there was a texture to it I didn't like. Too flat, like it was being played through a speaker with bad settings. My knee bumped something solid, a table. My fingers found its edge, old wood, nicked and scarred. "Here?" I asked. "Uh-huh," he said. "Right there. Put it down." I set the box gently on the table. "Where's the envelope?" I asked. "Right there," he said. "By your hand." "Oops." There was a soft flutter of paper sliding off wood. "Oops," he repeated. "I dropped it. Can you get it?" "Please." It fell near my feet. I heard it. I also heard every horror movie I'd ever watched screaming at me in the back of my head. "Still rent money?" I bent carefully, keeping one hand on the table, the other groping in the dark. My fingers brushed the edge of paper on the floor, and then I slipped, just a little. My balance wobbled, my grip on the table tightened, my eyelids twitched. For a second, a hairline crack of light opened between my lashes, not enough to see a whole room, just enough to see one thing. Bare inches from my left foot, way too close to be anyone but the kid, was a foot, not a child's. It was big, broad, sprinkled with coarse, dark hair up the instep and onto the toes. The nails were thick, yellowed. A faint, ugly scar ran across the ankle. That was all I saw before I snapped my eyes shut again so fast it hurt. The kid's voice came from above me, closer now. "You dropped it," he said. The tone had changed, less sing-song, flatter, like a recording slowing down. My heart slammed against my ribs. I grabbed the envelope with shaking fingers and straightened, keeping one hand on the table, the other clutching the money like a lifeline. "Got it," I said. My voice sounded way too high. "Good job," he said. "You can come back again. They'll like you." "Awesome," I said weakly. "Enjoy your pizza." I turned, feeling the air in front of me like I was walking through a minefield. The house seemed to lean closer, every creak of the floorboards a warning. Behind me, the kid giggled again. It scraped down my spine. I kept my eyes shut all the way to the door. My fingers fumbled with the knob. Found it, twisted. Cold air slapped my face as I staggered outside. I didn't breathe until I was back in the car with the door shut. Heater blasting, eyes still squeezed shut. When I finally opened them, my hands were white-knuckled on the envelope. Inside, under a neat stack of 20s, was the receipt for the order. In the special instructions field, someone had written, "She did well. We almost had her. Send her again." I didn't show that part to Mr. M. He didn't ask either. He just counted my tip, $70 total, with the delivery fee, and clapped me on the shoulder like I'd passed some unspoken test. "You followed the rule," he said. "Good. Keep doing that." Then, quieter. The other girl. She opened her eyes when the voice sounded like a little boy. People do that. They want to believe what they hear. He looked at me hard. You keep your eyes on the money, he said, not on the ghosts. I wanted to quit right then. I didn't, because money talks, and so do the things that order pizza from places like Mancini's. If this were a movie, the part after the first red flag delivery would cut to me dramatically quitting, storming out of Mancini's, and starting a new, safer life. In real life, I paid my overdue electric bill, bought real groceries for the first time in weeks, and showed up for my next shift like nothing happened. Turns out $70 in cash is a really good anxiety medication. For a couple days, everything went back to normal. Regular deliveries, regular people, regular complaints about cold cheese and late drivers. But once you've walked blind into a stranger's house while something pretended to be a kid, regular doesn't feel regular anymore. Every time I saw a child on my route, I caught myself staring at their feet. Every time the ticket printer spat out an order slip, my eyes went straight to the bottom, looking for red flag, label on box. I told myself I wouldn't take another one. I also told myself I'd stop dating guys with temporary tattoo sleeves and no last names. My track record on these promises is not great. On the third night after the first red flag delivery, my landlord slid a bright orange envelope under my apartment door. Final notice, it said. Pay past due amount in full or vacate by the end of the month. I stared at it on the counter for a long time before my shift. Then I put it in my backpack and went to work. Mancini's was busy that night. Snow had melted into dirty slush. People were ordering out, and Mr. M was in full drill sergeant mode. "Dino!" he barked as I shoved my hair into a ponytail. "You're late." "I'm 6 minutes early," I said. "In pizza time, that is late." He slapped an order slip into my hand. Medium pepperoni, 2 garlic knots, regular address, no red notes. I ran it, came back, did it again. Somewhere in the blur of orders, I almost forgot about the other kind. Almost. Around 10 p.m., I heard the printer cough out a new ticket and felt the room shift. It's hard to explain. Nothing actually changed. Same oven noise, same sizzle of cheese, same kitchen radio playing some classic rock station. But Frankie glanced over. Mr. M stopped mid-yell. For a second, everyone was listening. Paper tore. Mr. M read the slip. His jaw tightened. He didn't say red flag, but he didn't have to. He wrote on a sticker, slapped it on the top of a box, and then looked up at me like he already knew what I was going to say. "Don't," Frankie muttered under his breath. "Let me take that one." He said it casually, but his eyes weren't joking. It was stupid, and maybe a little selfish, but hearing him say that flipped something in me. "This one mine?" I asked, walking over. Mr. M held the box between us like a priest with an offering plate. "You can say no," he said. "You walk away. I give it to someone else. I don't fire you. I don't yell. You keep doing normal runs. That's it." In my head, the orange envelope on my counter glowed like a warning light. "What's the rule?" I asked. He turned the box so I could read the sticker. The handwriting was the same as before. The content was not. "Motel, room 117. Door will be unlocked. Do not knock. Do not announce yourself. Go inside. Place pizza on the coffee table in front of the TV. Do not touch anything else. Do not take anything, even if it belongs to you." That last line made my stomach drop. "Even if it belongs to you," I said. "What does that even mean?" Mr. M didn't answer right away. "Sometimes they know things they should not know," he said finally. "They hear, they smell, they imitate. He tapped the sticker. They bait you with something you want. You touch, you take. You don't come back the same. If you come back at all. You're really selling this, boss. I'm not selling anything, he snapped. I'm telling you the truth. You want the money. You pay the price of knowing what you walk into. That is the deal. I held his gaze for a second, then looked down at the box again. Motel. Unlocked room. Don't touch. Don't take. Don't believe your own eyes. $70 had felt like a miracle. My landlord's letter said I needed a lot more miracles. I'll take it, I said. Frankie swore quietly in the corner. Mr. M just nodded, like he'd expected that answer all along. The motel was one of those two-story jobs on the edge of town with exterior doors and a blinking vacancy sign that never turned off. I'd driven past it a dozen times and thought I would literally rather sleep in my car than stay there. Now I was parking under its flickering lights with a pizza on the passenger seat. The lot was half full of beat-up cars and one huge pickup truck with a blue tarp over something in the bed. The office had a closed sign flipped halfway, like someone couldn't decide. Room 117 was on the ground floor. Third door from the end. The curtains were drawn. No light showed around the edges. I killed the engine and sat there for a second, listening to the tick-tick-tick of the cooling car. Don't knock. Don't announce yourself. Door will be unlocked. My brain kept trying to fill in the rest of the instructions with sensible things, like, if you see a murder scene, leave immediately, or call 911 if someone's screaming. Instead, I had, don't touch anything, even if it belongs to you, like some cosmic fine print. I grabbed the box, stepped out into the cold, and walked over before I could think myself into driving away. The door to 117 had a deep scratch down the middle, like someone had dragged a key or a knife across it in a bad mood. The handle turned easily under my hand. Inside was dark, but not pitch black. The thin curtains let in enough light from the parking lot that my eyes could adjust. The air smelled like every cheap motel room I've ever been in. Stale cigarettes under a layer of lemon cleaner. Something damp underneath. I stepped inside and then stopped dead. The room was mine. Not literally, not copy-paste, but close enough that my brain couldn't decide if it was looking at a reflection, a memory, or a glitch. Same layout as my studio. Door straight into the living room. Tiny kitchenette tucked to the right. Bed against the far wall. Small window to the left. There was my ugly thrift store couch with the cigarette burn on the arm. The same scratched coffee table I'd snagged off Facebook Marketplace. The same cheap rug with the corner that always curled up, no matter how many times I stepped on it. Except, the couch wasn't quite the right color. The coffee table had one extra notch. The rug pattern was just a little off, like someone recreated it from a blurry photo. My heart thudded in my throat. I looked toward the kitchenette, a pile of dishes in the sink, crusted with old sauce, an overflowing trash can, a chipped blue mug on the counter with the words, "World's okayest daughter." I own that mug. It's from my mom. Joke Christmas gift. Mine has a crack through the handle from the time I dropped it and had a mental breakdown on the kitchen floor. This one was whole. On the opposite wall, a couple of framed prints I recognized. A cheap art poster I'd bought in college. A photo of a beach I'd never been to but liked the look of. In my real apartment, those frames are black. Here they were brown. Little wrongs, little differences, enough to make everything uncanny. My hands were sweating on the box. Place pizza on the coffee table in front of the TV. The TV was off, black screen reflecting the room. The coffee table was exactly where it was supposed to be, and on the shelf above it sat a small, round urn. White ceramic, silver paw print on the front. The name Daisy in neat black letters. My lungs forgot what they were supposed to do. Daisy was my dog. She died 2 years ago. Kidney failure. She was 12. The only creature that has ever been more consistently happy to see me than my own reflection. Her ashes are on my bookshelf at home, in an urn that looks exactly like the one in front of me. Exactly. Same tiny chip on the rim where I bumped it while dusting. Same little scratch under the Y. The same slightly crooked label from the pet cremation place on the bottom. I knew without picking it up that if I turned it over, the sticker would say my name, my address. "You're not subtle," I whispered to the empty room. Something scratched softly at the door behind me. My whole body clenched. Then I heard it, a muffled, familiar bark. 3 quick woofs, the kind Daisy used to make when she heard my key in the lock. My eyes stung. "Daisy," I said before my brain could catch up. The scratching came again. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Another bark. Closer this time, like her snout was pressed right up against the wood. I took a step toward the door, then another toward the shelf. Rule number 4 on the sticker burned in my memory. Do not take anything, even if it belongs to you. What if it really is mine? I whispered. What if they messed up? What if... Another bark cut me off. Whine, the soft little desperate sound she used to make when she needed out. My hand reached for the urn on its own. The ceramic was cold, not room temperature cold. Not "this place hasn't had the heat on" cold. Cold like it had just come out of a freezer. My fingers jerked back on instinct. A shiver ran all the way up my arm, like I'd stuck my hand in an ice chest. Outside, in the parking lot, someone slammed a car door. A man yelled. Tires squealed. Inside, at the edge of hearing, something vaguely dog-shaped panted once against the door. Then another sound mingled with it, half a beat out of sync. My own voice. "Daisy," it said softly, the exact way I'd just said it. Same wobble, same breathiness. "Daisy girl, it's me. Come on." The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I looked around the room again. Really looked this time. There was my thrift store couch, but none of the mysterious stains were in the right place. There was my pile of laundry in the corner, but shirts I'd donated months ago were back on top. There was the little spiderweb crack in the mirror. Except in my apartment, that crack is on the left. This wasn't my home. It was a bad AI recreation of my home. The other girl. They bait you with something you want. Mr. M's voice echoed in my head. I picked up the pizza box and set it down on the coffee table, right in front of the dark TV, like the rules said. My fingers itched to grab the urn, to hold it to my chest and walk out and pretend this was some miracle, some cosmic apology for every crappy thing that had happened in the last few years. The barking outside the door changed. For a second it sounded exactly like Daisy. Then the tone dropped too low, like someone dragging a file over a piece of metal. The whine stretched into something else, something not meant for human ears. The thing on the other side of the door mimicked my voice again. "Daisy," it crooned. "Please, help me." The words were right. The cadence was not. Every hair on my arms and neck screamed wrong, wrong, wrong. "Sorry, girl," I whispered to the urn. "If that's really you, you know I'm trash at following rules. I'm trying to get better." I backed away from the shelf. 3 steps, 4. When I reached the door, the scratching stopped. For a second, all I could hear was my own heartbeat and the hum of the motel's ancient mini-fridge. Then, right by my ear, so close I could feel the vibration in the wood. The not quite my voice whispered, "We almost have you." I flung the door open and stumbled out into the corridor. The air outside felt hot compared to the room. The neon motel sign buzzed overhead. 2 doors down, a woman in a puffy jacket was fumbling with her keycard, paying me absolutely no attention. Room 117's door shut quietly behind me on its own. I didn't run. I walked very fast. Back at Mancini's, the envelope waiting on the counter had my name written on it in blocky, unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a folded wad of cash, $85, and a small white circular sticker. On the front, in neat letters, was the word Daisy. I flipped it over with shaking fingers. The back was blank. Mr. M watched my face as I counted the money. "You followed the rule?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. "Barely." He nodded once. "No, good job. No joke. There will be more," he said quietly when Frankie had gone to load his car. "They see you now. They know your smell, your shape. They will build better traps." "Then maybe I should stop taking them," I said. "You should," he agreed. "Most people don't. They think they're stronger than what's hunting them, or they are too hungry." He tilted his head toward the street, toward my empty wallet and orange eviction notice, and all the choices that had led me here. "You are a smart girl, Dino," he said. "You be careful which kind of hungry you listen to." Later that night, after close, I went home to my very real, very small, very imperfect apartment. The urn with Daisy's ashes sat on my bookshelf where it always had. The sticker in my pocket fit perfectly over the old label on the bottom. I didn't put it there. I flushed it down the toilet instead and watched it spin away. But sometimes, when I'm driving the blue Corolla through another dark neighborhood with another red label on the box next to me, I swear I hear scratching from the trunk. And every time the ticket printer coughs out a new order and I see that little note, red flag, label on box, I wonder how many more rules I can follow before I slip. Because if there's one thing I've learned delivering pizza to people who aren't really people, it's this. They don't just want your money. They want the moment you decide to break your own rules. And they're very, very patient.